I have a twin sister, and our parents have always favored her over me. I used to think that this was just how life was supposed to be. A close-knit family. I believe that's a truly wonderful and joyful thing. We must cherish our family. I feel that's something you can only say when you're cherished by your own family. Those who receive unconditional love from their families and see it as the norm might think this way. However, it's different for me. I don't remember ever being treasured by my family, and I don't think we get along. In fact, I was the only one treated as an outsider by them. My name is Harper, and I'm 30 years old. Yet, I'm still not married. From an outsider's perspective, my family might seem close-knit, but I hardly ever felt joy being with them. I was born a twin with a sister named Michelle. My sister Michelle has been beautiful and sharp-witted since childhood, receiving special affection from our parents. On the other hand, I had a plain appearance, and there wasn't anything remarkable about me, so our parents seemed indifferent and viewed me as a nuisance. Whenever Michelle wanted to learn ballet, our parents would instantly find a class and spare no expense for her needs. During recitals, they'd say, "Michelle has to be the most noticeable and cute," and would always prepare extravagant outfits for her performances. But when I expressed a desire to learn swimming or art, they'd coldly reject me, saying things like, "You don't need that," or "It's a waste on someone like you." I vividly remember the sorrow and emptiness I felt when I saw my family celebrating Michelle's ballet contest victory without me. However, despite all the money they spent on her ballet, when it was time for Michelle to go to high school, she suddenly declared, "I'm done with ballet. I quit." Our parents let her quit without any objections. When it came time for college, our parents' biased affection towards Michelle was once again evident. When my sister expressed her desire to attend a private women's college in the city, our parents assured her that she wouldn't need scholarships or loans and wouldn't have to work part-time. They promised to fully support her living expenses while she lived alone, saying this with cheerful smiles. However, for my education, they didn't even consider hearing out my aspirations. They believed that graduating from high school was sufficient for me. Whenever I expressed my wish to pursue higher education, they'd retort, "We've allowed you to graduate high school. Be grateful for that and work after graduation." But I persistently negotiated with them, and under the conditions that I wouldn't rely on them for college expenses and would help out at home, I was allowed to attend a local public university. From that point on, my life was a hectic balance between my studies, part-time work, and housework. Since I took out student loans, I couldn't afford to lose any credits. To pay for my personal expenses, I couldn't afford to skip work either. I had to ensure that I completed all household tasks, or they'd force me to quit college. I worked tirelessly in this relentless routine. As for my sister, she occasionally came home, always appearing fashionable and polished, seemingly enjoying her campus life, contrasting the typical image of a college student. In contrast to my gorgeous sister, I was so occupied daily that I hardly had time to be conscious about my appearance, and she would mockingly comment about it. "You always look so drab every single time I see you. I honestly don't want people thinking we're twin sisters with you looking like that. Seriously, how can you go out looking so messy? If I looked like that, I'd be too embarrassed to even live. Anyway, considering where you're attending, it's definitely a low-tier school, right? Does attending such a place even make sense? Isn't it just a waste of time?" "She's right. Harper wants to go to college, even though she's not that bright. Such a waste. Always wandering around looking so messy. You must be the laughingstock of our neighbors." "But Michelle, our neighbors always compliment her, saying she's such a beautiful girl. It makes me so proud and happy." I used to get hurt by such senseless taunts from my family when I was younger, but now I've grown so accustomed to it that I hardly feel anything anymore. Despite enduring such unjust treatment, the stormy 2 years of college went by, and both my sister and I were able to graduate. For my sister's graduation, the other 3 family members went on an overseas trip and seemed to have bought a high-end designer bag. Such celebrations had nothing to do with me. I wanted to work and live on my own, but my parents said, "We've indulged your whims and raised you. Stay home and do the housework. Living alone is a waste of money. Give your salary to the family." Thus, I wasn't allowed to live independently. Fortunately, although the company I received a job offer from was quite far, I could commute by car. My sister began working for a famous company in New York and boasted about her office being in Manhattan, but I was indifferent to her bragging. A few years later, she decided to marry a colleague and resigned from her company. She apparently held a wedding ceremony, but of course, I wasn't invited.
"Harper, you're so plain compared to Michelle. I can't believe you two are twins. You guys look more like an aunt and a niece." Graduating from some unknown university and joining an unheard of company? It feels so bottom tier.
My sister, witnessing Tom's rude remarks, just laughed and didn't reprimand him.
"I was worried if the cute grandkids would resemble Harper, but they all look like Michelle having cute faces. I'm so relieved,"
said my mother, holding a grandchild as everyone laughed around her. A few years later, my mother passed away suddenly. Given her reclusive nature and how she relied on me for household chores, her sedentary lifestyle might have been the cause. While my father and sister grieved deeply, I was shocked to find myself emotionless. My father and sister criticized me, saying,
"You don't even shed a tear at a time like this. You're heartless."
They even threw things at me. When one of those items hit my face, that's when the tears easily flowed. After my mother's death, my father's legs grew weaker. While not enough to need to move into a nursing home, he required assistance with daily tasks. My days became a whirlwind of work, household chores, and caregiving for my father. My sister would occasionally return to our family home, but would mostly just ask our father for money for her kids, and would leave without helping at all. From my father's perspective, he rarely thanked me, assuming it was natural for me to help, always finding fault in what I did. When I prepared a bath, he'd complain the water was too hot. When I cooked, he'd say the seasoning was too light. Eventually, he'd say,
"It's your fault Mother died,"
and throw something at me. Though my father's legs weakened with age, he wasn't seriously ill. He'd use the money I earned to go out and drink with friends from noon. When he ran out of money, he'd demand more from me. At home, he'd claim his legs hurt and wouldn't do anything pushing tasks onto me. Yet, he'd suddenly become energetic when going out for drinks. Looking back, I should have decisively cut ties with such a selfish family and left home. However, having been subjected to unreasonable treatment and verbal abuse from my family since childhood, I believed this was normal. I became numb to the abnormality and never thought of moving out and living on my own, continuing to live with my father under these conditions. Then one day I received an unexpected call from my sister. Before I could even say hello, she started yelling, "Hey, how long are you planning on squatting in our family home? I've decided to live with Dad, so could you please move out immediately?" Wait a minute, does Dad know you're moving in? Of course he does. He said he wants to live with us and see his cute grandkids every day. Honestly, I can't believe you've been lingering at home just eyeing Mom's inheritance. You're probably living comfortably off it, right? I absolutely won't allow you to be the only one living that way. Start packing up. By the beginning of next week, be gone. After my sister finished her tirade, she abruptly hung up the phone. The word mother's inheritance that she emphasized kept bothering me. What inheritance was she talking about? First, I had to confirm this with my father. "Dad, my sister called saying you're planning on living with her. Is that true?" When I asked him, my father looked at me with disdain. He answered bluntly as if even replying was a hassle.
"Michelle said she'd take care of me. I can't tolerate living with someone like you anymore, who can't even do housework properly or get the bathwater temperature right. Michelle told me I won't have to worry about anything, that she wants me to live peacefully surrounded by my cute grandchildren. Isn't she such a dutiful and wonderful daughter? On the other hand, look at you, always underperforming since you were a child, Not even thinking of getting married, only spending money at home. You're unsightly and have nothing to be proud of. I'm ashamed to even think we're related. You're just a nuisance. I'm cutting ties. Go somewhere else."
I was overwhelmed by my father's words. Was I really just someone who spent the family's money? Though I had many doubts, I finally made up my mind. Since both my father and sister told me to leave and even wanted to sever our family ties, there was no need for me to hesitate anymore. I resolved to move out and take a new step forward. So, I contacted my sister. "Just as you said, Dad also wants to live with you. Since he's thinking of cutting ties, I'll move out this week."
"For once, you've made a quick decision. Now that you won't have any relation to me and Dad, don't cause us any trouble in the end."
"Yeah, I'm sorry for everything. By the way, is it okay if I take my belongings with me? Clothes and some other stuff?"
"Your things are probably all cheap anyway, right? They'll just be in the way, so make sure you take everything. But don't dare touch the house's belongings or money. If you do, I'll call the police."
"I get it. I'll only take what belongs to me." After hanging up, I thought to myself, all right, I better pack up all my stuff for the move, and started my moving preparations. A few days later, after I had finished moving and was buried in a pile of cardboard boxes, my smartphone rang. The moment I pressed the call button, a loud voice, almost deafening my ears, shouted,
"What the hell is going on?"
It was my sister, Michelle. "Huh? What's wrong? What happened?" I moved the phone away from my ear to avoid the ear-piercing shrill of my sister's voice, but I could still hear her loud and clear.
"What the heck? The house is empty. There's no furniture or appliances. Where did you take everything?"
I had expected her to react this way. Even so, she was louder than I had imagined. "You told me to take all of my belongings, right? So I just took everything I bought with my own money. Is that a problem?"
"Wait! You bought those appliances and furniture with your money? With a salary from your job, there's no way you could afford all those expensive items. Didn't you buy the furniture after Mom died with her inheritance? Don't lie to me. I won't forgive you. I'll call the police. Give everything back."
I sighed, thinking, I knew it, and slowly explained the truth to my bewildered sister. "Sis, you've been talking about Mom's inheritance, but she didn't have any inheritance. She was just a regular housewife, and there's no way she could have left behind the amount of inheritance you're imagining." Upon hearing this, my sister, clearly confused, yelled back,
"I don't understand what you're talking about."
I was also frustrated by her inability to grasp reality. "Listen, after Mom passed away, I had to take care of Dad, manage the housework, and work at the same time. It was challenging. So, to save time, I bought appliances like the vacuum cleaner and the drum washing machine. I bought them with my own money. I also replaced some of the older items while I was at it. Of course, all of that came from my own pocket. By the way, I've been covering all the living expenses until now."
"Wait, but all the furniture was replaced with new ones after Mom passed away, wasn't it? Are you sure you didn't buy them with Mom's inheritance? The dining set, leather sofa, beds, everything."
"Like I said, I bought all of them with my own salary. I wanted to renew everything since it was all old furniture. I used my bonus to buy them." Even over the phone, I could sense that my sister wasn't convinced by my explanation.
"What about the car? That car's been at our house for ages. We used it as a family's, didn't we?"
"And that car is in my name. It's been that way for a long time."
"That's a lie. I can't believe you. I thought we could live comfortably off of Mom's inheritance, so I decided to move and even quit my job. I used up all my savings. I have nothing left. What am I supposed to do now? It's so remote here, how am I supposed to go shopping without a car?"
While I was overwhelmed by my sister's selfishness, I tried to explain the situation calmly. It seems that my sister believed that I was living a lavish lifestyle using our mother's inheritance.
"My younger sister is living luxuriously with Mom's inheritance. We have the right to some of that inheritance, so we should kick her out and enjoy it for ourselves."
seemed to be her thought process. I knew that my sister, though beautiful and sociable, lacked foresight, but this was beyond what I had anticipated. "I have no intention of coming back. You were the one who told me to leave, right? You even told me to take all of my belongings with me. I just did as you said." Although my sister was still ranting on the other end of the line, there was one last thing I needed to let her know. "By the way, do you know about Dad's debt? Since I have nothing to do with it, you'll have to take care of the repayments from now on."
What? What are you talking about?
My sister responded in a voice filled with shock. As I suspected, she apparently didn't know about the debt. Our parents had managed to keep its existence hidden from her. While we weren't exactly wealthy, our family had always lived beyond our means, especially when it came to providing for my sister. Naturally, what couldn't be covered by my father's income was made up for with loans. Expenses like my sister's ballet lessons from when she was young and her college tuition were all paid for with loans. Now all of it remains as debt. But it shouldn't be a problem if my sister repays the debt. After all the money borrowed was for her sake. Didn't you tell Dad that you wanted him to be surrounded by his grandchildren and live without worries? So I guess that means you wouldn't want him to worry about the debt either. Truly, you're such a wonderful daughter. I relayed this with intentional sarcasm in my voice. Hearing this, my sister's rage intensified and she raised her voice.
Hold on. Don't mock me. Firstly, there's no way someone like you, who could only get a job at some unknown company, could afford all those high-end electronics and new furniture. Despite everything you say, you must have secretly used Mom's inheritance, right?
You always look down on my job and make fun of it. But do you even know what I do?
Why would I know? Knowing you, you probably work at some unimpressive unknown company doing some mediocre job, right?
Actually, I work at a financial firm, and it's a foreign capital company.
Huh? Foreign what? What's that company?
As I thought, my sister clearly had no understanding of what I was talking about. My parents and sister, not being adept at foreign languages, had trivialized the name of the multinational company I joined after graduating, just because they hadn't heard of it before. It's a major company. Anyone with basic general knowledge would have heard of it at least once. They had always belittled me and said I was incompetent, but in fact, it was they who lacked basic knowledge. I've always loved Spanish. I continued attending college because I wanted to study Spanish even more. Thanks to that, by the time I graduated from college, my Spanish had improved to the point where I could communicate freely in professional settings. The foreign-affiliated company was also a place where one's capabilities were tested. I worked hard there, refusing to be outdone by my peers, and now I earn a salary that leaves me worrying for nothing. Of course, my parents and sister, who had no interest in me, were not aware of any of this, nor did they care to know. It had always been that way since I was a child. They had always assumed that I wasn't good at anything or studies and never really looked at me, let alone be concerned about my grades. Yet, in reality, I had always been among the top performers since elementary school. But I wasn't expecting them to understand that now. While I was thinking about this, my sister kept yelling incessantly.
Look, if you apologize in front of us, I'll forgive you. Come here. First of all, where did you move to? Tell me the location.
Why should I apologize to my sister and seek her forgiveness? There have been many things about my sister that I've never understood since we were children, but now I don't even want to try to understand. No, I don't particularly need your forgiveness. I've already been disowned by you all, so I have no ties with you anymore. Please, don't call me anymore. This is your problem, so you deal with it. Goodbye then. Take care. With that, I hung up the phone. I could hear my sister's shouting voice until the very last moment, but I felt as composed as I had when my mother passed away. This time, there was no one around to hurl insults or throw objects at me, calling me heartless. So, there were no tears. On the contrary, my heart felt as clear and refreshed as the blue sky. A few months later, I heard from a local friend that my sister and her husband had quit their jobs and returned home, hoping to rely on our mother's inheritance. However, things didn't turn out as they had expected. They wanted to find jobs again but didn't have a car, which was essential for work, so they were aimlessly loitering around. As a result, they couldn't repay my father's debt, and life became very tough for them. They had to sell our family home, and my sister, her husband, their children, and my father were forced to move to an apartment complex nearby. However, the money from the sale of our family home was not enough to pay off my father's debt in full, so they are still repaying it. The lack of financial comfort, combined with living in a cramped space, seems to be taking a toll on their family relationships. Tom, my sister's husband, seems to blame and resent my sister because he was deceived into squandering their savings and was made to quit his job. It seems that their marriage is on the verge of breaking up. The only silver lining seems to be that the children have made many friends in the apartment complex and are enjoying their time there. I moved to a place near my office and have been relishing every day, generously spending the money I've worked hard to earn on myself. Until now, it was always about my family before myself. Now I only need to think about my job and myself. I came to realize for the first time how comfortable that can be, and it made me happy. So I sat on the brand new sofa I had just purchased, admiring my fingertips beautifully decorated with nail art. Considering all the hardships I had to endure in the past due to the restrictive environment, I plan to enjoy a carefree single life without worrying about others for a while.